Blog Talk Radio.
Right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for tuning in to Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, where you'll hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. I'm your host, Barry Barnes, founder and CEO of Locker-Report.com. And you guys can always reach me through any one of my social handles with Twitter, Locker_Report, Facebook, Lockreport.com, Instagram, Lock Report 100, all small caps, or you can just simply shoot me an email at barrybarnes@locker-report.com. I hope everyone is enjoying this nice sunny day. Hope everyone is enjoying this weekend that's coming up as we celebrate our veterans for Memorial Day holiday season. I know there's a lot of people under the sound of my voice is traveling, getting to their destinations to spend time with their families. So I just want everyone to have themselves a safe Memorial Day holiday weekend, and also keep in mind of the men and women who lost their lives for us to be able to have the freedoms that we have in this country. If it wasn't for the life lost or the sacrifices made, I would not be able to have my conversation with you guys this morning on this air, or none of us on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, which you can also hear on TuneIn as well. So without the sacrifices that were made, I just want to say we will not be here, and I just want to extend a thanks so that we keep it focused that while we're celebrating our cookouts, remember the ones that lost their lives and sacrificed a lot so we had the freedoms that we have, because we know that without freedom, we can't have no peace, and that's why this country is the greatest country in the world. So with that being said, we have a lot to get to. Last week, I had the privilege again to be at the NFL front office, to be there for the officiating mini clinic, which I had the pleasure for the past several years to attend, to cover. It's the only media outlet that's there, so that's something I don't take for granted, and it's always an honor and a privilege to be in the confines of the NFL headquarters. And last week I touched on being there, and I know last week I talked about having NFL senior vice president of officiating, Al Riveron, come on the show today, but he was not able to come on as he would be scheduled to, because he got flooded with all kinds of meetings and things like that. But don't worry, I do have the next best thing, pretty much like his right-hand man, Mr. Wayne Mackey, who is the NFL Vice President of Officiating, Evaluation, and Development. So Mr. Wayne Mackey is going to come on the show today. We'll hear his interview from last week. A great guy. I can say he's a very funny dude too. He commands the room, and when you have a gentleman that spent 10 years on the field, when Mr. Mackey, when he was an official in the NFL, he did it for 10 years. He was what they called then a head linesman, but they changed it because now we have female officials in the league. So now the NFL head linesman is now the down judge. So that was a position as an official that he served while he was active on the field as an official. So now he's an evaluator. He's a development, guy. He conducts a lot of the meetings that's there. Not only is he very informative, but he's very entertaining. He really know how to capture the room, but he's all about business, and he's all about making sure the integrity of the game stay input, and making sure that the mechanics that all the officials have exactly what they need so they can be able to execute what they need to execute on the field. And like any other clinic, we watch tons and tons of videos going over, and the officials are no different from the players and coaches. Players and coaches, they look at film to do what? To get better. And the officials, no difference. They're not there checking to see who did this wrong, we should have did it this way. It's none of that, because These guys know exactly what they're doing in the field. It is a perfect system, no, but is the best out there? Absolutely. I watch these guys put in the work. They put in tons of work, countless hours, even during a non-playing season. These guys still put the work in. And it's always great to be around the officials because the funny part about it is that this is their first time they all came together since the Super Bowl. So when they come and hang out, when they come to these clinics, they do have their periods when they get to make jokes, laugh at each other, joke each other all the time. It's like a constant. It's like the biggest fraternity in the world. I tell you, it's some of the things they say to each other is like wow. But when it's time to go into the meetings and to really focus on what the task at hand, that's when you really see the professionalism that's there. We have officials not so much going at it, fussing at each other because they're not doing that, but they always critiquing. And that's something that's needed, and it's no different from a player and from the coaches. And that's what the mini clinic is. The mini clinic is pretty much the prelude up to the main clinic they have in July every year that's in Dallas. That with the mini clinic, they really don't talk about things that's etched in stone. They pretty much go over a lot of mechanics, look at film from last year, sometime the years before, just to make sure that they are consistently on the same page. With the mini clinic, there's nothing really nailed that they talk about broadly. Everything's pretty much generally speaking, but every once in a while they will focus on one particular thing. And last week, the main thing they focused on when they talked about the rule changes was the blindside block. Now, we listen to Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, where you hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. And with the blindside, now, first of all, the league is all about player protection. Player protection is right now the heartbeat, not just with the officials, but it's coming from the coaches. It's also coming from the NFL personnel with the teams because there are certain things they do not want in the game. And player protection is at the forefront of everything they do. And I said on the show last week, probably even a week ago, how the rule changes had to be changed because the players of today are far more advanced. They take their body seriously. It's more of a business now, how they make sure they stay fit all year long, all year round. So the players, these machines, so to speak, are a lot faster, a lot stronger, more powerful, more intense, and a lot more intelligent than the players that played in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and into the 90s, and probably in the early 2000s. Because during that time, the skill set was equivalent to the rules that was in the league. But now, with these players being bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter, they have to dial back these rules because if they don't want no one to seriously get injured on the field. So that's why it's all these changes. So don't think the game is getting solved because it's not. They have to make these changes out there because they know that the world is watching, and they want to make sure that they always portray that the player protection is key and it's number one, and it's going to trickle down. When the NFL shows that it's all about player protection, that's when you see the lower levels. They will get in line, and next thing you know, football will be deemed as that sport with parents, so they will know that their child will be safe on the field because there are things that's being implemented into the game to make everything works out for everyone across the board. Now, with player protection and with a blindside block, I'm going to read some stats that was actually gathered through NFL football operations. According to NFL football operations, 63% of concussions during punts are caused by blindside blocks. 1/3 of all concussions on punt plays were caused by blindside blocks. From 2015 to 2018, blindside blocks were the cause of this stat. On punts, 17 blindside infractions caused a concussion. On other serious injuries, 27 blindside hits generated a concussion. On kickoffs, 7 players were concussed. On passing plays, 9 players sustained a concussion. And on run plays, a blindside block produced 4 concussions. Now, entering into 2019, they will make a change. Now, according to the meeting there, and you can catch all this stuff, that, everything I'm saying on the content on locker-sport.com, so you can follow back over everything that I'm talking about in the show to read in more intently. But holding has been their main foul. They always have to make sure they monitor. That's the one infraction that's called the most. And that's one of the ones that's that main one they focus on a lot to make sure it does not change the play. This year, holding will be the blindside block. That's something that all the officials across the board, everyone across the board, is going to monitor, because not this officiating is leading this charge. It's the coaches. It's your NFL coaches. It's your Belichick's. It's your Sean Payton's. It's your Mike Thomas in the world. The coaches and their front office staff. This is what they want to eliminate the game, because with the competition committee coming together to help put out suggestions, this is what they want. Now, last year, using a shoulder or a forearm to block an opponent in the direction of the blocker's goal line was legal, meaning that if a player were to use their shoulder or their forearm and they have, let's say, a defender whose body, let's say the defender's back is towards the goal line, towards the goal line, so the offensive player will not score a touchdown. The player's back is facing the goal line. When they have a wide receiver or anyone that's coming with their shoulder, their forearm, if they was to hit them into their chest, anywhere in front was completely legal. And when they did that, there were players that still got concussed from it. Although it was a clean hit, because they come in with so much force, it was legal. But this year it's going to be different. And what's going to happen this year is that, according to the law that's being laid out right now, moving forward, shielding a player without force in the direction of a blocker's goal line is legal. Meaning, it's look at an NBA game and look at the way how they set a pick. That's pretty much the way how they want the blindside block to be, where it's not using any force. And then, like I said, you go to locker-report.com and read up on this. And so during the course of the meetings, some of the replays they was playing, they were showing the blindside blocks that was legal last year, that would be legal this year, and they had many examples of what direction they want the blindside block to go, because there were many times last year when the player did not use force, but they just set a pick, and it still was a solid block, and they were still able to execute on the offense side of the ball without anyone getting hurt. And that's what they want to move forward in towards. So just to reiterate that they want to keep the blindside block simple, like a holding call, by setting a pick with their body in a firm position. That's key, in a firm position like this basketball, to shield without striking a force. So that's key, without striking the force. They're not specifying certain body parts what they would consider. So right now, if there's a firm position, like setting the pick, shielding the player without striking, without force, that will be determined as legal. However, if a player uses any part of the body to strike, especially to the head and to the neck, because the head and neck injuries is just as severe as a concussion, then that will be considered illegal. So that's where the main thing these guys talked about. And listen, take it from me, the officials, they are football fans too. And these guys would like to see a player get blown up, long as legally, because they know it's a part of the game. But everyone across the board is all about player protection. Everyone is in on it, and this is actually being forced, with the coaches coming to the league office, coming to the officials to see how they can make that play safer without removing it completely from the game, because it is a part of the game of football. They don't want to completely remove it. They still want to keep the integrity of the game, but player protection is number one. You're listening to Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, where you hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. Now, we're going to take a quick pause, we're going to pay some bills, and when we come back, we'll listen to the interview with Mr. Wayne Mackey. I'm sitting here with Wayne Mackey, who is the NFL Vice President of Evaluation and Development. Mr. Wayne Mackey, they took the time out to join Locker Talk to talk some football, NFL officiating. Mr. Mackey, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. How you doing, Barry?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I want to say, first of all, thanks a lot for allowing me to be with y'all guys again on the NFL officiating mini clinic. It means a lot to be able to get the information out to the public about the clinic. But I know the clinic has not been around as long.
Right.
But what is the purpose for the mini clinic?
The mini clinic in May, what we do, we expose them to the mechanics on how we want them to work during the year. See, originally we brought them in, we bring them in, we do all of their health-related stuff. We put them through their physicals, their annual physicals. And then while doing that, we said, okay, let's make good use of this time and do football. Because the more football you do, the better we are.
Right.
And so what we do, once you finish your annual physical, we go into breakout sessions by position. Right. And we talk mechanics. We talk where you should be, what you should be looking at, what initial responsibilities you have, and then when a play goes, where are you looking? Where are you watching? What do we want called? You know, we discuss all of this at the May Mini Clinic.
One of the things that's really fascinating from watching the film study that you guys have and sitting on with you guys, and how you talk about position, being in the right position to make the right call.
Correct.
I see that's very, very important. When you see these players, how fast this game is. You know, I call it blink of an eye speed type of game. But y'all guys still have all 7 officials in the right place. Is that a lot have to do with not only the instructions you have, but do it also fall under the disciplines, the self-disciplines that all the officials have?
Absolutely. I mean, again, when you get to this level, you have some kind of idea on where you should be, because we use them, while college uses 8-man, we go 7-man, and through the instruction on what the supervisors do, and tell them when you break out into the breakout sessions with the downfield officials, with the line of scrimmage officials, with the umpires, with the referees. So we tell them where we want them to be, what position we want them to be, where we want them looking at, who they should be looking at, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So through that training and then their experience, they kind of already know where to be, but we just try to fine-tune what we need to do for the National Football League.
Right, that's awesome. Now, I know that yourself, you was on that field for many years.
10 years.
How is it on the field, on game day? And a lot of people, you have a lot of listeners right now that's listening, thinking that, I can put on a hat, I can put on some stripes, I can go and do what they do. And I always combat that, because just listening on you guys and then actually being on the field during the game and seeing how fast it is, as an official, NFL official, what is it like being on the field officiating the game?
Well, it's it's like anything else. As a athlete and growing up and playing all 3 sports, basketball, football, baseball, you always in tune and your adrenaline starts flowing on game day.
Right.
But even before game day, it's always key. If you say proper preparation prevents poor performance, that's what it's all about.
Right.
I mean, we don't just show up Saturday, put on stripes Sunday.
Right.
We work from Sunday to Sunday. We have film study. We have position breakouts where we look at the particular mechanics and calls that we make by line of scrimmage officials. We have, position videos. We have tests that we take. We scout the teams that we're going to have in the upcoming week. So your adrenaline flows. Trust me, your adrenaline flows on Sundays, Mondays, Monday nights or Thursday nights. But at the same time, when you're prepared, once they kick that ball off, you just go right back into officiating mode. You block out all the different crowd noise and all the outside environment, and you almost go into like a little bubble where you're just officiating and looking at your areas of responsibility, etc.
Right.
So it's fun before the game with the adrenaline.
Yeah.
You know, the flyovers and all of that good stuff. You enjoy all of it.
Right.
You know, but that's the key. You just have to have fun doing it.
Right.
But be a professional.
Right.
Be a professional, and you will succeed.
Right. Now, I know that I would say the policies and of the procedures has not changed, but I know things evolve. Can you tell us what's the difference that you see from the new officials that's coming in today compared to when you and your veteran friends, who most of them are now supervisors with the NFL, what's the difference between officiating then and officiating now?
They're more prepared than we were to come in this league because of technology.
Right.
We didn't have the technology to look at videos, and we would have to wait and put stuff on VHS tapes and stuff but now it's instantaneous.
Right.
We can walk out of a stadium and have a thumb drive to watch the game that we just did.
Oh, man.
Okay? You follow me?
Yeah.
And even in the colleges, they have the same technology available to them to allow them to film study, to have web conferences. We couldn't do any of that.
Right.
If we didn't fly somewhere to get together, we couldn't all get together.
Right.
You know, now they have teleconferencing where you can talk to somebody in California and all across the country. Matter of fact, the officials had a web conference on May 15th.
Right.
That was the first day that we could talk to them again, and they all got together, and started discussing the 2019 new rules and points of emphasis.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference. It's a huge difference in the terms of the technology that's available to them to allow them to learn as much as they can.
Right. This is great information because we the fans of the game and people that's listening to us right now, they see the players having their workouts. You know, they go on social media, seeing how the jump boxes and what they're eating, their dieting, and you see how the personnel parts move around the NFL, how they positioning themselves to make sure they had themselves a great year with signing and things like that. When you look at the officials, that's the part that no one actually sees or talk about. But for what you just detailing and for what I see and what I'm reporting, there is another side how the officials definitely prepare, not just during the playing season, but all year round.
It's a year-round preparation.
Right.
You know, you might take a few weeks off after the Super Bowl just to decompress for a minute.
Right.
But I can tell you, February, you'll take off after the Super Bowl. March 1st, they're hitting it again.
Right.
You know, because they're opening the rule book.
Right.
They're working out.
Right.
You know, in preparation for the annual physicals that we just had.
Right.
You know, then we put them through in July in Dallas when we have the clinic down there.
Right.
We put them through a physical assessment where they have to make movements like they would make on the field and you know, to see if they can move right, and then we you know, run sprints and different things to make sure they're in shape.
Right.
You know, so it's a year-round process.
Right.
And people don't realize that. They just think you sit home and do nothing and just show up to do the game. That's the biggest misconception that I can say that just kind of bothers most of us.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. It bothers me now, too. And speaking of as far as rules and preparation, the clinic that we have in Dallas, whether you guys have in Dallas, I know the mini clinic, that's where you see more of the officials have more input. Right. While they allow them to actually, you know, speak, give their opinion about certain things.
Yeah, talking mechanics.
Right.
When we talk mechanics and movements and what we should be looking at, we incorporate them into this because they're still on the field and they can tell us better. Exactly. We can say, okay, we think this is best, but will this work? And they can chime in and help us out with that. Right. Absolutely.
And then in July, that's when everything is cemented. Y'all know what y'all going to go for.
Correct.
Everything's in concrete.
Correct.
And you already mentioned about, you know, the evaluation that they have, that fortunately using at the Cowboys facility. But when they get inside there, tell the people the atmosphere, how it's still a fun atmosphere, but the atmosphere is even more intense than it is in May.
We're serious about it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going in there in Dallas and you're discussing new rules. You're discussing the 2019 new rules and points of emphasis. You're showing them what the competition committee and what the owners and everybody want now going forward with the new rules.
Right.
Okay? And we just give them the video of what we want called, what we don't want called, and we incorporate them in July as well.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we'll have full-time game officials do presentations.
Yeah.
Because we feel it's better for the message to come from one of their fellow officials, as opposed to making sure like we're the experts.
Right.
And we encompass that in everything we do. We try to get their input because we're only going to be as good as the officials on the field. Right. I can tell you that right now.
Right.
So we incorporate, their opinions and what they think, and we try to just be the best that we can be.
And it's, without a doubt, y'all guys are the best in the business, hands down. I'm not just saying it because I work close with you guys, but to see behind the scenes with the preparation y'all guys put in, and then to see on game day, y'all guys are the best. Mr. Mackey, thanks for your time.
No
man.
problem,
It was a
Barry.
pleasure, man.
I appreciate you, man.
No problem, my friend.
Thank
I'll
you.
be seeing you soon.
All right.
Keep on telling those jokes. Thank you for coming back for Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, where you hear about NFL stars of tomorrow, today. And don't forget to always check us out also on TuneIn. Just type in the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, and you'll hear all the shows that we have during the course of the week, where we cover everything from entertainment, politics, religion, anything, social injustice, anything that's dealing with the public. Tune into Batchelor Pad Radio Network, and then of course sports, where I will hold that down at the Locker Talk. Thanks again. We just got finished hearing an interview with NFL Vice President of Officiating, Evaluation and Development, Mr. Wayne Mackey, who, as you can tell, is a fun guy. But strictly by the book, he plays no games. He's highly intelligent. He loves football, and he loves officiating and making sure that everything is done right, keeping the integrity of the game intact, and making sure that the officials, pretty much like you heard him on the sound of his voice, to be better, and also equip them with the things that he didn't have when he was on the field for 10 years as a head linesman. Now the position changed to a down judge because they have now females that's officiating this wonderful game. So when we put everything together and when the officials come together, it's, like I said one time before, it's almost like being behind the scenes of a production, whether it's a movie or stage play, that the players have their role, the coaches, they have their role, office personnel, they have their role, but with the officials coming in, pretty much allowing them on the playing field to execute what they're trying to put out for their production. The officials just want to make sure that the production goes well, that there's no flaws, there's no issues, and then after they do their job, then they can present this great game that we see on Sundays, Monday nights, and on Thursday nights. Now, with Mr. Mackey coming on the show, in July, we go to Dallas for the main clinic, the officiating clinic, where everything comes together, and it pretty much kicked the season off because the following week, that's when training camps starts, and that's when the playing season is really starting to get into motion. And that's when we're going to come together again to really get the season 2019 campaign rocking and rolling. So that was pretty much the coverage. Anything else that you want to know about the officiating clinic, even down to the new 6 hires for officials they have hired coming into this season, and 2 of them are former NFL players. I implore you, go to locker-report.com. There's so much information out there about officiating that if you love the game and you want to know what's going on behind the scenes, go to the site, check it out. Whole bunch of content on there, anywhere from, like I say, even with the ODPs, the officiating development program, with the officials that's actually in the pipeline to potentially be NFL officials down the road. Check all that good stuff out. Next week, we're going to come back when we get into some players. We're going to talk about some players from the NFL Regional Combine and some players from the watch list, how they did during that rookie minicamp. They had most of those guys, pretty much all of them, that's reading and following what was going on. They all had themselves a solid workout at their rookie minicamps. And I'm looking forward to these guys really pushing the issue and making these teams for this upcoming campaign for 2019 NFL season. Thank you for tuning in to Locker Talk. Like I said, everyone, please enjoy the Memorial Holiday weekend. love your friends, love your family, but also keep in mind what this holiday is for, to remember our veterans that sacrificed and died for us to give us the freedoms that we have. Without war, there can be no peace. And because we had peace in this country is because of the men and women that laid their lives down. So if you have a close family member or close friend that was a part of that, make sure you keep them in remembrance. And any veteran that you do see, just go up to them, say thank you. If you're in line, they're trying to buy something, buy it for them. You listen to Locke Talk on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network. Everyone stay blessed. Talk to you next week.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Julie. Huh? Julie. Huh? Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Anybody? Anybody? Mike. Huh? What day is it, Mike? Huh? Woo-hoo! Leslie, guess what today is? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Hump day! Woo-hoo!
It's hump day.
Hump day! Woo-hoo!
This is the Donaldson Files. This is Tom Donaldson with our special co-host tonight, Lauren Bice. Coco is, as we learned last night, she one of her short films is up for nomination for the Cannes Film Award, and it's also won quite a few awards in the Los Angeles area. And tonight she is on location in an unidentified place somewhere in L.A., and she won't be able to join us, but she will join us Tuesday. But I'm Tom Donaldson. I'm the chairman of America's PAC. I am a research associate and project director for America's Majority Foundation. And my good friend and the official European correspondent for the Donaldson Files, Lauren Bice. Lauren, I'm going to let you, because I don't want to miss anything about you, because your resume is very extensive. So
good evening, everyone. It's good to be with you again, Tom. My name is Lauren Bias, and I have just completed my graduate program here at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. It's good to be an American in Dublin, and I'm enjoying my time here. I'm a film studies scholar, and I'm also a playwright, and I have just completed a documentary called The Letters, and it is an avant-garde documentary, and it's really an interesting take on seeing the images in relation to the poetic journey, showing the different people that come to Dublin from all over the world, the artists, the intellectuals, and what it takes to be a multicultural individual, not just coming to Dublin, but all people when they decide to uproot themselves and go to another country. Not easy, but how you're not alone, and you always find a kindred soul. So it's one of 3 parts. So it's a progression of what it takes when you first move someplace, and then you move to the second part and into the third part. And it's been very well received, and we'll be having our premiere in a couple of months. So it's good to be with you all this evening, and we're going to have a very interesting discussion.
Yes, we are. First of all, I want to kind of tell the audience that last night we, because originally we had kind of an original schedule, but everything went to in the business, in the radio and internet business, ever so often you got situations like in the case we had a guest coming on last night, but she lives in Oklahoma, and her town got terrorized by major storms and tornadoes. And she said we were cleaning. She said we were cleaning up trees and everything, and messes every place. So she was, said she could not make it with us tonight. So we basically had two interesting discussions. First one was on abortion. And I want to kind of have people listen to that discussion, and I'll tell you later how to go back on that, mainly because it was an interesting discussion that Coco and I had, totally different, disagreements, but there were areas of agreement as well and worth listening to. And then we got into China and basically the social credit system that they are adopting, which is kind of an Orwellian vision of the world. And we're going to follow up with that tonight because I think it's vitally important to do so. And Lauren, as usual, I have to thank you very much, Lauren, for agreeing to come on the air because it is, 11 o'clock your time?
Yes, it's after 11 my time, correct.
So I hope, so we are keeping Lauren up.
That's all right. I'm happy to be here.
So, but here's the thing. There are three. I'm going to start off with three stories, and then we'll get into the discussion. Years ago, it was like about 30 years ago, and I was telling Lauren, ahead of time, when we were doing the show prep, is I was taking a computer course. It was one of those improve your computer skills type of deal, and so my company at the time paid for it. So, and I can remember after we finished the course. After we finished the course, we go out and have a couple of beers afterwards, kind of celebrate, the teacher and the students. And he started talking about the Book of Revelation, and he got into, and he said, we talk about the 666. And he said there's going to be a time and a place where people are going to be putting chips in you. You're going to have a computer. You're going to be in a cashless society, and unless you're on, and the government will be able to control you so much that just having the chip or having your computer is the only way you're going to be able to live and sustain yourself. In other words, he was presenting a very bleak picture. Mm-hmm. But it's a bleak picture that, Coco and I discussed last night, it may be coming upon us. And mm-hmm. and one of the things that Coco was telling me, this is kind of fascinating. Like she was saying, I bought a bunch of stuff online and said within 5 minutes of buying it on my computer, I'm getting ads for this place.
Yes. And
then and this is creepy. This is totally creepy. But last night she talks about, her experience in China. And she, mm-hmm. here we are, we're having this discussion. Finally said, oh my God, I just got an ad traveling to China.
Mm.
And it was like, and we're, it's so easy to be paranoid, and the black helicopter and all that. But tonight, we're going to have a little paranoia here because we live in a society today where, quite honestly, everything about you is out there. Most of us have our banking information. We shop online. How many of us will read digital magazines or digital press? In effect, these people know everything about you to a point
Absolutely.
where...
It's really odd because I was on my iPhone and I was scrolling, going through different things that I wanted to purchase. And there was a very unusual item that I wanted to buy. And it was something that normally I would never think to look at. And I didn't click on it, but it was just in the matter of I was scrolling through. But I took my time. In other words, I stopped scrolling. Just the activity of my scrolling slowed. I just slowed. That's it. So, my thought process slowed. Well, somehow they knew because in the next couple of days, that ad appeared everywhere. It appeared on all my social media. It appeared in YouTube on everything, all my subscriptions. That exact ad pops up. And it's been like that for days.
Yeah. I gotta say, it's scary. Because we live in the way I kind of put it this way. Years ago there was a politician, I won't name the individual, but what she said was brilliant in this sense. He said, we're going to end up losing our freedom little by little by little until mm-hmm. we wake up and there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. And I can always remember when, years ago, Reagan would made it very, there was a history book I read, and the historian, he begins the first, part, he said, we are one generation from greatness, but we're just one generation from barbarism.
I remember that.
Yeah. It goes right into a straight line. And And one of the things last night we were talking about the social credit, because what intrigued us with our discussion, and this is what I think I want to kind of get in with you, because you're right now, there is a battle going on with Google. And I know you mentioned that Ireland is going to 5G. It's converted over to 5G. And I know that there's a big battle going on with Google and the EU. And so, and to me, I kind of look at these companies, and we're talking about countries that their capitalization is in the trillions. Apple is $1 trillion+ company with the iPhone. I mean, they're like nations. I mean, if they were companies were nations, they'd be part of the G7. And the interesting aspect is the power that they control and hold over us in so many ways. But, in a way, China is kind of showing the future with their credit system. In effect, as I understand it, is, they're going to survey everything you do. If they look at what you do on Facebook, they look at what you do on Twitter, and they're basically keeping, are you a good citizen type of deal, much, Big Brother at its most awfulness. And I don't know,
they're calling it a culture of sincerity. That's how they're marketing it, and that's what they're doing. They're marketing it as such, to establish China as a culture of sincerity, trying to make it like that. But what you're saying is correct. What they're really doing is just organizing their society and categorizing their so-called citizens. It's almost very robotic. That's what they're doing. It's a cyber way of organization. It's putting people in a digital, computerized manner. But what it does is it keeps people in a class system that really they will never be able to get out of, because once they're labeled, and that's, I remember, one of the articles you had sent me, once you're labeled, these so-called credits, if you don't achieve a certain number of credits, you can't make them. You can't make them up. It's almost like getting a bad credit score in the United States. Although you can clean up your credit. We're all familiar with that. You can clean your credit up. But in China, you can't clean up this credit. You can't make up credit. Once you get a bad score, that's it. If you don't attain these credits, that's it. You're stuck in that level. But the ones that do, then they're like this upper echelon of society. And then they have the ability to you get the better jobs, the better housing. They have the educational system afforded to them. But everyone else, and that's horrible, because that becomes a generational problem. That's generational.
Yeah. Hold on to that thought. This is Tom Donaldson Files, our special guest and the official European correspondent for the Donaldson Files, Lauren Bice, on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network.
If you want to hear another view of the latest developments in Trump's Washington, listen to the Dr. Larry Show. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Larry is a former businessman, entrepreneur, college president, and author who provides background and context for current events and trends in politics, education, foreign policy, and religion from a conservative perspective. Tune in and hear the other side as Dr. Larry talks with Washington insiders exclusively on blogtalkradio.com and the podcast at the BatchelorPadNetwork.com.
Yeah, that's the Dr. Larry Show. And tonight's show is going to be interesting. First of all, number one, because I'm going to be on the show. So that's, basically, yeah. So I'm going to be on the show. And we're going to be talking about what he calls conscious capitalism. And it's kind of a reformist, and basically, Dr. Larry's been doing a series on this for the past month. And what he's kind of looking at is how the evolution of capitalism in the 21st century, what it needs to do to reform, to evolve in this particular period. So it's like I say, so it's be kind of fascinating. We're going to have a discussion on this as we pursue this issue further as part of this series. So that's going to be tonight following this show. Okay, you brought up something to me that dealt with Korea workers. Kind of share what you were trying to tell me.
Yeah, so I teach students English as a second language, and I have students of all different ages, but primarily I have adult students that I teach conversational English. So rather than teach a structured lesson plan, we discuss, current issues and that thing, because that's the easier way to learn English when you just discuss things. So they teach me their culture, and I talk about ours. So recently we were talking about the Korean culture in business, and they enlightened me to the fact that in their corporate environment, the way that it works is this relates to any gender. It is structured that although this is South Korea, although it is very it's a contemporary society, it is still ruled by what they consider the ancient culture, and that's how they refer to it. So in other words, the ones that are in say senior management, as we would say, senior management, the highly educated people, many people are educated in the United States, Harvard, MIT, and then they come back and they work in their corporate levels. But however, the way that their employees are treated, people just as educated, okay, they talk down to them, and the mindset is they will talk to them like they're the sinners. Like if you do something that is considered rude, or you're labeled or almost like given a bad score, and you will never be able to be given a higher job or better pay, and you will work at that job your whole life and considered beneath everybody else. So in that culture, you're still being treated like that. So what you were talking about before, if technology evolves now, say, to a culture like that, okay, like what China's doing, right? And we have chips that are put in, and all that is put in. What happens when you commingle that with belief systems that are still in play? Will people become so oppressed? What happens to that culture? I mean, really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What you're really saying, what you're really saying, and because here's the thing, I'm going to assume you've read 1984.
Of course.
Yeah, and so have I. And I'm always kind of curious how many people could tell. For me, it was it was like required reading in one of my classes, and it's something that I wish people really need to read, mainly because it's happening right here today. You make a good point about, let's say in Korea, you're basically put in a position where you can't get out of. You're born to the status you are. Certainly, one of the advantages over the the years in the United States is, as Marco Rubio used to say, when my dad lived in Cuba at the time, what he was born is where he ended up. Whereas here, you always had that movement upwards, and that's so you basically are seeing world. We've seen in China, what you're talking about in Korea. But it's starting to creep across what I would say Western civilization. And here's the thing. Think of it this way. We kind of talked about this briefly. Everything that you and I do is somewhere in the cyberspace. Where we shop, what we read, what we do. I mean, emails, internet, you name it. Whatever you put on Twitter, if anybody's on Facebook, whatever you put on Facebook, it's someplace, somewhere, somebody's got it.
Right.
You can't hide from it. And
no, every picture you take now, every single picture you take on your phone is automatically something that's going to be uploaded somewhere.
Yeah. And this is and that's here's let me throw this out, because in 2013, Admiral Clapper basically told congressional, no, don't worry about it, we're not spying on you, only to find out later, the NSA was spying on us. And here's some of the things. This is last year. Our National Security Agency collected 534 million records of phone call and text messages last year. 534 million records.
Let's go for a minute. Let's go back to the Patriot Act. Remember when that was put into play?
Yeah.
And remember the fervor that went on. How all the civil rights activists came out and said they said it back then. I mean, we knew we had to do it in a sense because of 9/11. But remember the uproar and everybody saying we know we need it, but at the same time, this was going to be the indicator of what was yet to come. And in a sense, isn't that exactly what happened?
Well, absolutely. Here's the thing. To me, because I was one of those, because obviously part of it is that you have to trust your government to limit itself in its power, and you have to trust that there would be things put in place to do exactly, that it can't be done. And we're seeing now that that's not indeed the case. I mean, one of the issues, and again, it will be interesting as we go down the line, dealing with the FBI and the FISA courts, whether or not they have, to what extent they've abused it. But this is all part of it. And I always thought to myself, well, if you can go to a secret court and just, essentially say, well, whatever, and get a warrant, they're going to be spying on you just based on that alone. And we have to trust that there is things in place, and we're finding out that those things that we think should be in place, if they're in place, they're not being very well followed.
I'm going to tell you something that happened to me when I was in Colorado, which is where I was living.
Yeah.
In Sprint was my carrier for almost 13 years. I had it in Florida, then I moved to Colorado, and that's a long time to have a carrier, 13 years, same one. So I'm in Colorado, and I have my iPhone, and periodically in 6 years, all of a sudden I couldn't make any calls. I couldn't receive any in at all. I can make text messages, but people are texting me and say, Lauren, I can't call you. And it was a very odd thing. Except when I would call out, I would get a message of it was a monotone voice, like a voicemail or a voice response. That would say, it would go bing bing, and it would just say you cannot make this call or something, but call this number. And I would call this number, and a human voice would come on and say, what is your Social Security number? Just like that. And I would say, who are you? Just give me your Social Security number. And I would say, who are you? This would happen all the time. And she goes, do you want your cell phone turned on or not? I said, what is this about? And she goes, this is a tower. I said, what tower? And she says, we'll put the switch back on, but we need your Social Security number. Now, a couple of times I was in such a rush getting to class, and I needed my phone on, that I did it. And sure enough, they put the phone back on. This went on a couple of times, more than a couple of times, over 6 years. And then at one point, I got so aggravated. I said, how do I know who you are? Are you the government? Are you monitoring us? And she got silent. And then I moved. Now, isn't that interesting?
That is. I mean, actually, because my first thought would have been, there's a scammer. Somebody is hacking into my phone. That's been my first thought. And I almost would have gone almost immediately to whatever the local store is. I mean, that's almost.
No, I did. I called Sprint, and they said that they heard something in their department that was happening with Sprint. But it was valid, but even they were not completely sure what it was about. And that was representative saying that.
Yeah, well, at that point, I'd be changing carriers.
Well, I mean, eventually
right.
I did.
But
eventually I got
point,
rid of my
yeah.
number moving here.
Yeah.
But that's
because
the level that we're at.
Yeah, I mean, that's the level, because the thing that comes into play, I mean, this is the aspect that comes into play. It's in the sense that there's so much out there about you that it is so easy to have information that, let's face it, I mean, we all have our moments in which we probably took the wrong picture to put on Facebook or on our phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's someplace, somewhere, somehow that can be used against you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at, like I say, it's that point. And that's just where I think, what people need to understand is where we're at. So, where we're at. I mean, let me kind of get into another angle, but it kind of touches on the same thing. And it is this. My own, like I say, I'm not going to name the name of the social media. But I had a situation because I run a political organization. We put in some ads, and we had troubles. They were, we were having problems with. Something was kind of mixed because I'm expecting, because they were basically taking money out of the account to pay for this. It was not, you don't give them a check and then they do it. It's they do it bits by pieces, and nothing was happening. So I'm calling up my associate who's working my social media side. I said, "What the hell is going on? Nothing's going to happen." Then we get a letter saying, "Oh, you've been suspended, and not only have you been suspended, but don't bother calling us to tell you why, because we're not going to tell you why. And if you use another IPS, we'll know it." I mean,
wow.
And so basically, I guess I got friends in media, and I kind of released that, and a couple of them did stories, and within a week, funny thing happened. They said, "Oh, by the way, you're back on." But here's the thing. The argument has always been, well, these are private companies; they can do what they want, which is, there's an element of truth to that. But when you're controlling 95% plus of your various, like Facebook controls 95%, Google controls 95%. Twitter's got a major in that particular market. And Instagram is essentially if that's not Facebook, right? They're in effect determining who gets to be heard and who doesn't.
Right.
That's happening now. And that is in effect detrimental to to political discussion, because quite frankly, if people can censor you, and I see this quite a bit on Twitter, where I've seen people who, I look at, and I was, and there's nothing on there that you would indicate, well, they're hating, haters, or they're just, points of view or whatever, but they're certainly not haters, they're not racist, not bigots, and they disappear. And I've had a couple of these people come back, and I got to a point where some of these people, if I have somebody I like, I say, "Hey, give me your email, so if you ever disappear, we can keep in contact."
Right.
But there is
what I think Twitter should do? I really think what Twitter should do is they should put an option in there, like how you're able to block like sexual content just for yourself. I think they should put an option in there, a filter, that you're able to filter out certain topic content. So like you could filter out all political content, and then they could filter out even more specifically like U.S. political content. I really believe you can do that. And that's just mapping. That's basic computer mapping. That's not a big deal to do. Because if they did that... Go ahead.
Yeah. And that would be that's an interesting concept here, because that gives you the freedom to do, to put on what you want to put on.
Exactly, because this way, Twitter's not doing that. This way, just like China has the government that's dictating who can do what and how they do it. And then here in the United States, the people that are like basically owning social media and telling us what to do and who can do what, if we have the users, which is what we're doing, right, private people, we should have the ability to block ourselves. And this way, you don't have the user saying, Twitter blocked me, Twitter suspended me, right? We would all have more accountability as far as what we see.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And I want you to hold on to that thought because we're going to kind of follow up a little bit on that as we. So this is the Donaldson Files. Tom Donaldson with Lauren Bice, my special guest and the official European correspondent for the Donaldson Files, and on the part of the Batchelor Pad Radio Network.
Hey, this is L.A. Batchelor reminding you if you're looking for real discussion on sports, politics, religion, and other topics, you need to join us on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern at WCOMFM.org, on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at blogtalkradio.com/LA-Batchelor, and on Thursdays at the same web address. Follow us on Facebook at Pad Nation, on Twitter, Pad Nation, the number 2 at Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can email us with your requests, your comments, your concerns, anything you want at our email address at LABatchelor with a T, BATCHELOR 40@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Pad Nation, Instagram, and of course, if you missed any part of our broadcast, make sure you go to the BatchelorPadNetwork.com and listen and enjoy the Batchelor Pad.
Yeah, that's again. It's the Batchelor Pad show, the Batchelor Pad show with L.A. Batchelor, the man who basically formed our network, the Batchelor Pad Radio Network, and you can also, again, the BatchelorPadRadioNetwork.com. You can listen not only to his show, but to our show as well. And as I stated last night, I think last night's show was one of those shows that you'll want to go back and listen to because. We had a great discussion on abortion we had, and we're now following the discussion we're doing today began late last night at the last 25 minutes of the show dealing with, the social credit system, the internet, the ability, and maybe are we asking the question, are we slowly losing our freedom? Now, you kind of make the interesting point what Twitter can do and what they should do. And I kind of like some of those ideas that you have. I mean, because they're kind of simple ideas. And certainly it allows people the freedom to be able to pick and choose, okay, what subject matter you want, who you want, what you want to listen to, that type of deal. And it would deal much more so. But but here's the thing that I kind of fear because I don't know. I know that Google is having a battle with the EU, and I'm not certain of the full details. I don't know if you've been following that yourself.
I saw a little bit of it, but you're right. They're not giving us enough detail.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's important to understand. When we talk about how powerful these voices can be. I mean, these groups can be like Google or a Facebook, because in effect they're becoming the new filter in which news is run through. And
that's true. I know.
Yeah.
Well,
and the thing that always
explain to me about Google. What do you? They're saying that they need to be that one governing body, Google. But what do you think? I mean, do you agree that, first of all, I want to ask from your perspective, do you think Google is doing a good job?
No, I would say so. I'm very, Google's one of those things that makes me nervous in this regard. Like I said, they have almost complete control of the servers, in the United States. It's a tough battle to be because I have to read more details because I know on one side of the equation, there is a lot of government agency wanting to gain their control over what gets said as well on the internet. That's part of the battle. But Google themselves, my own experience with Google, the last couple of months would indicate to me it's not like they're making it easier for me to root for them over the EU because they're essentially dictating this, doing this. One of my favorite examples would be, and again, this is there are certain aspects, certain areas where if you go Google something, and here's the thing we do know about Google is that they have a political bias, this has been detailed. You've had people come out and release information from inside Google, say, we're making our decisions based on our political bias and how we're going to treat people, and we're treating certain groups different than others. That is coming. That has already come out, and that to me is kind of a scary aspect, because we're getting a lot of. Most people get a good portion of the news service through these, from like Facebook, Google, and one of the things that they can do, and I've seen this myself, where if you look up a certain subject matter or a certain group, I've had situations. I will look up an organization because I'd be curious, and you'll literally have. I had one situation with this one group. I was looking at trying to get the website, and it took me 3 pages to get the website. The first 3 pages were why they were bad.
But Tom, I have to disagree with you right there. But Tom, listen, you're this is the situation. Google, and I remember listening to congressional hearing when Google's representative was there, and he made it very clear it isn't biased. Google searches are based on people's searches. So the number of people that search for something, that's what comes up first. So there is not that they're compiling their preferences and putting that in first. That's not how it goes. No,
here's where my disagreement is. I would, there's a part of me that I understand what you're saying, but there's a part of me, there's been, like I say, you've had situations where, things released saying in effect there is a bias, an institutional bias that exists. And how does that affect the algorithm? Is it based on what you've stated, or do they fix it? I don't know. I'm becoming more cynical on that particular score. You may be right, but there is.
Well, no. Okay, wait, listen, let me explain something. Wait, I'm going to have to really vehemently disagree with you here. The only way there could be a bias when you're talking about a collective search of individuals, and we're talking a broad spectrum of people all over the world that do a search on Google, is if everybody's mind suddenly telepathically decided to lump themselves into one topic and said, okay, we're all going to be only say, if everybody said, let's search for apples, for red delicious apples, and that's the only apple we're going to buy in this world, so let's all search at the same time and make everybody believe that the only apple we're going to eat is a red delicious apple, then yes, that's biasing a search on Google. But there's no way that's going to happen. And any other idea is almost like a conspiracy. It can't happen. It's a blatant misconception to think you can bias a search. You can't.
Okay,
unless, wait, let me just say, listen, I'm sorry, because this is important. Unless you're going to go I'm not saying you specifically, unless somebody is going to go so off their mind here and think that there's a group of people in some black room that's taking everybody's searches in a nanosecond and putting them together and saying, don't take those people's searches and let's compile them really quickly and pop our idea of what the search should be and pop those in first, which is ridiculous. That can't happen.
Well, let me put it this way. Here's where the, there was a report. Let me get here a couple of points here. Okay, there was a report here that was 2018 where they talked about when you go look at Google on news bias, and they make it clear when they looked at the bias that when you go put it on, the majority of the case will be one side versus the other. In this case, it was left bias. Now, I went back, and I'm now looking at the European. Now, here's what the European investigation is they're basically saying, one of the investigations is that they're accusing Google of relating preferential treatment to its Google shopping at the expense of others. And again, now, like I say, I don't know the full details, but this was essentially what it is. That they're basically accusing Google of biasing toward their shopping toward their product line, toward a product line over other product lines.
Well, I mean that's another entity. I mean, that I can, that's different. I mean, if you're going to be, if you're talking about marketing products and putting products over something else, that's different. Like I'm talking about individuals searching for something. That's one thing. But if we're talking about advertising, that's something different.
Well, here's the thing. I gotta say, because I would put it in this capacity, and this is where, because I've been that victim of Google. I guess I just introduced the social media. So to me, I'm going to say the point. How is it that I nearly got suspended, or my organization did, based on that somebody didn't lie, and be suspended and never. And certainly we're looking at a group that's been in existence for 16 years. We've been, I play something like 6 over 400,000 radio ads. Radio ads, and never had radio ads, and never had any kind of issues like this. So, if radio stations are basically saying you're okay, are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me that I'm not okay with you? I mean, so I've been that victim, and my point I would be to you is, I'm going to take it now to a much larger scale. How easy it would be for a government agency, like what we're talking about in China or down the road here in the U.S., to basically use this very same technology. So, use this technology to censor us, because this, to me, is where we're headed, regardless of whether, right, left, or whatever you may be how easy it would be. Because if, in fact, I'm going to hold on to that thought that I'm going to have you respond back to. This is the Donaldson Files. This is Tom Donaldson with Lauren Bies on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network and the Donaldson Files.
Join Barry Barnes for Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Network as he presents NFL news and evaluates players. Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern at blogtalkradio.com.
Yes, Locker Talk with Barry Barnes, 9 a.m. Friday on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network. He talks about the NFL from perspectives that you have not heard before. All right. Okay. See, this is the thing. Because I'm going to go back here. This was an article that was written in The Hill. And here's and what he kind of talked about here is, this was a quote. With incredible data collecting, the plumbing is already in place for such a system to take hold. Now, he was talking about censorship, hate speech, fines, or whatever it may be. Our tech companies catalog large quantities of data on everyone. And for those, as Cambridge Analytica. Now, for those who may not know what Cambridge Analytica is, this was actually a group that was associated Trump it's one of the groups that Trump used, or his campaign used, to mine information from Facebook and others, so they could tailor the ad. So if you wanted Tom Donaldson, Tom Donaldson, I'm going to tailor this ad that he would be interested in. And this guy said this data can be used to steer particular viewpoints it's not a far cry to imagine this information being used to control viewpoints. And this is like I say, because I don't know if you remember the outrage, because this was about a year ago. The Cambridge Analytica story came out. Yeah,
it was a big deal.
By the way, they're not the only one that did it. In 2012, the Obama team did essentially the same thing. They had very similar situation. So, but it came down to these guys.
What just happened with Trump, though, was criminal because it involved the Russians and everything else. So So let's just put it in. But let's put it in perspective. Okay, now you may continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let's say we're not going to go into the Russian collusion case
No,
now. That's
we're
another
not.
Debate. That's another.
But let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Well, let's take a follow up on that, because we did. I've done stories. We've done stories in the Donaldson Files. And one of the things I would tell people, who say to me about the Russian involvement in 2016, I say, I got news for you. They've been doing this for a century. This is nothing new. They've been doing.
No, but at least now everything's coming out. At least now everything is coming out.
Yeah, and what I would tell people is that, look, you have to understand one thing. But here's the interesting thing, because China has been doing this, and nobody talks about China's involvement. But China, for example, had the biggest hack ever of our government agencies, where they literally got millions of information, millions of government workers. They were literally, which they now have in their possession. That was in 2015.
Wow.
And when and the thing that comes into play, it goes back to what we're talking about, is how easy it is for governments, negatively or positively or negatively, to steer debate or steer issues or steer control into a certain pattern.
Well, I want to bring up because we're talking about China, but I also want to mention about Australia, because now they have what they call the deadbeat map, where they identify people of certain criminal acts, people of certain, not just criminal acts, but people of any type of, as they would call, like problem issues in society, people, economic stature, and they make this map, and it's a public. They give them scores almost, and it's accessed where any citizen can access it on the computer, but that's a horrible way of classifying someone, and it's actually that's what it's labeled as, the deadbeat map.
Well, again, that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about, because in effect, when you get to that point, you're right. I mean, when you get to that point, we're talking control in such a way that was unmanageable, unthinkable.
Right.
Decades ago. Like I said, I go back to that computer instructor I had. I didn't give this one thought what he was talking up to that point, and you got to remember because we kind of viewed the internet as the ability in those days, because that was one of the ways you could get information into the Iron Curtain without it being censored at that time, because the Russians and the Chinese had not figured out how to block it, and we were able to get that information there. Into now it's a complete opposite. It can be used to do the complete opposite, and this is, and this is, kind of way, I kind of view it like, we're kind of headed in a direction there. But, well, here's the thing. Again, I'll go back to the Hill article, that you and I kind of looked at together. He said, okay, it's trendy pretending Americans enduring a 1984 fascist hellscape, but China is implementing the largest surveillance state in the history of civilization, with over 1.3 billion people. And then he added, the free world is not far behind if we don't protect privacy, deny our policymakers desire to expand the reach of government, resist the urge to commercially or socially punish those who don't show our political ideology. And,
right.
Hey, remember the line we talked about at the beginning? Listen to this line. Privacy and liberty are never more than one generation from extinction.
I know, that's just so prolific and profound at the same time.
Yeah. And let me throw this out to you this way, because I'm going to kind of switch over to the entertainment side. And you can kind of talk to me about it because you're in the filmmaking side, you're in the entertainment side.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always kind of viewed like Netflix or Hulu or some of these streaming as mechanisms for independent filmers or unique projects that, let's say, you're not going to be able to see at the movie theater, or you're not going to see on commercial television.
Right.
But I had a couple of people say to me, that may not end up being the case, that maybe these streamers that we're looking at may themselves become the new Hollywood and put in their own mechanism that shuts out the independent filmmaker, shuts out the independents. Now, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what's going to happen is because Netflix in particular, because of the fact that it is so large and they have so much content, all right, they're in a position to welcome more content, all right? And that's a good thing. So at this point, you have you have more opportunities, and that's good. And they've become the vehicle to allow, like what Apple's doing now. Like Apple's the last to come on board. Apple's the last to come on board to offer the streaming of like Netflix is doing. So by Apple opening up and doing the same model, then it gives more opportunities for, I don't really think at this point, for independent filmmakers to do this on their own. I don't think they have the capital to do it. I mean, you could do it. I mean, independent filmmakers do it all the time. They do it all the time. You can make films on your own. You can market it on your own. If you have the, anybody could do that, really. But to really get it out there to the masses, you have the ability to do that now because there's so much money in Netflix and in Hulu, and just now HBO made the determination that they're opening up too now. HBO traditionally has been very select. They had a few big projects, and that's the way they stayed for years since their conception. But now they've changed their model, and they're going to be opening it up to, just like Netflix does, they're going to have all these different genres. And they're going to, if it runs for a year, it runs for a year. It doesn't work out, they'll let it go and then bring something else in. They're not going to be so select. So I think that for right now, it's going to run like that. And independent filmmaking just by themselves, it's going to be a struggle. And I don't think anybody is going to want to go that route when they have the opportunity to still go to production company, get a little bit of backing, and then have that production company go to Netflix and then present it. That's the way you do it. You know what I'm saying? You just don't go there on your own. You need to go to production company first.
Sure. Well, here's the thing, because I'm going to throw in kind of more of a good news type of deal, because one of the conversations I've had with people like dealing with the Google, dealing with the Facebook and Twitter, is how do you break them up? How do you get them to start respecting these other points of view? But there's also the aspect of what you're just talking about is, is there a way to break the monopoly that exists to allow more voices to be heard? Because, what we're talking about is restricting voices. What you're indicating to me is the expansion of voices.
Right.
Is that the way that I could interpret what you just stated?
Absolutely. That's what's happening. See, the more content that's out there allows for more content to be out there. And that's what Netflix is doing. It's headed by a female. She's amazing. And because she's a woman of diversity, being a woman, number one, and she's also a woman of color, she has been the first to open up the idea that, we should allow not just, the traditional, the comedies and, the sitcoms to come in. And that's why we have, the more documentaries, and we have, the unique content that we never had before. And see, the thing is, like, how HBO always just had, they had The Sopranos, and that would run for 5 or whatever years that would go through. And then they'd have something else, and then that would be, they only had a few shows, and that was it, and it worked for them, okay? But the idea is we are in a different age of people. We have many different people. We have people that are classifying themselves with different, genders now. So it doesn't work like that anymore. We have 100 different TV stations. So right now we have all these streaming services like Amazon, and we have to give people what they want. And so as an artist, it's an exceptional time to be around. Exceptional.
Well, let's take the lesson you just brought us here. Okay, let's say Netflix and all that. And by the way, on the phone we also have Dr. Larry. Dr. Larry, how you doing?
I'm just fine.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring you here in a couple minutes here, because I want to kind of leave the show on a more positive note before we turn it over to your show.
Thank you.
What we talked about, here's the thing we've talked about. We talked about the potential loss of freedom that could occur. We talked about the China social credit system and how, you're talking about the biggest surveillance system out there. And here's the throw that I would throw back to both of you, whether it's Google, Facebook, Twitter, or whether, how do we best preserve the freedoms we take for granted and prevent ourselves from being like what China is developing into with their social media credit system and surveillance system is what they're talking about. And I'll start with you first, Lauren.
I believe you have to give people the ability to be accountable for their actions, and you can't take away their own personal sense of freedom. And I really believe that Twitter should be one of the first social media sites to change some filter options, rather than have people just reporting when they're frustrated over something. That reporting option where they say, harassment, or it should not just be for sexual content. They should open up filters and allow themselves to filter out politics or anything else that they don't want to be involved in. That's what they should have more control for themselves, and not put it on, say, faceless people in Twitter, and that would disseminate frustration and everything else.
Okay, Larry, your thoughts.
Well, I came in late to the conversation, but I think freedom is fundamentally a matter of a social system and an economic system, and I would, as my latest rant is on the reform of capitalism, so that it fulfills a lot more human needs than we currently see, and but the value of it from the point of view of the contest with China is that it encourages all the creativity and all of the forward momentum that we've shown in the last 200 years, and that China's trying to steal from us.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I want to kind of leave here with it, because here's the, to me, is I'm going to say it's vigilance. Don't take for granted that your government is going to do what, that you always have to, maybe the way I have a cynical side in the sense that I don't assume that my government is always going to do best for me. And we need to keep that vigilance on freedom, whether, the abuse that could occur as a result of that. And whether it's, re-examining the Patriot Act, for example, and looking at the NSA and say, well, 535 million emails, phone calls, and texts are being evaluated and spied on. Is it an overkill to protect us? And what kind of freedoms are we giving up? I mean, these are the things that, to me, we need to be conscious of. And that's some of the things we were talking about as well. Tom Donaldson on the Donaldson Files on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network.
Hey, this is L.A. Batchelor reminding you, if you're looking for real discussion on sports, politics, religion, and other topics, you need to join us on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern at WCOMFM.org, on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at blogtalkradio.com/LA-Batchelor, and on Thursdays at the same web address. Follow us on Facebook at Pad Nation, on Twitter, Pad Nation, the number 2 at Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can email us with your requests, your comments, your concerns, anything you want at our email address at LABatchelor with a T, BATCHELOR 40@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Pad Nation, Instagram, and of course, if you missed any part of our broadcast, make sure you go to the BatchelorPadNetwork.com and listen and enjoy the Batchelor Pad.
If you want to hear another view of the latest developments in Trump's Washington, listen to the Dr. Larry Show. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Larry is a former businessman, entrepreneur, college president, and author who provides background and context for current events and trends in politics, education, foreign policy, and religion from a conservative perspective. Tune in and hear the other side as Dr. Larry talks with Washington insiders exclusively on blogtalkradio.com and the podcast at the BatchelorPadNetwork.com.
Join Barry Barnes for Locker Talk on the Batchelor Pad Network as he presents NFL news and evaluates players. Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern at blogtalkradio.com.
Hello, this is Sandy Eason, the host of Sandy's Secrets. Come and join us, where we will be talking about women's issues of sexuality, sensuality, and self-love. We'll be coming soon, exclusively on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network.
that's so right, you're my delight. And that's why I love you so. I played around with love before. I was silly, and you know that I played the fool. But then you came into my life and you changed that. 'Cause I know what I want and where it's at with you. Somebody treat me right.
Man, I want you to check out this groove, okay? Well, hold on 1 second. Put the needle down right here. Check it out. Joy to be near you. Won't you hear with me? Joy to be near you. I want you here with me. Lady, can't you see just how much you mean to me? Get a thrill each time I'm near you. I get such a rush, crave to feel your tender touch. Magic moment, paradise. Oh baby, life is too damn short to let you get away. Here to say I need your love. Oh baby, there's no greater pleasure than you give to me. Hear me baby, I want you to know. Joy to be near you. I want you here with me. Joy to be near you. I want you here with me. Darling, don't you know my heart longs to hold you so. Passion burns inside my mind. You're my fantasy. What a love can set me free. Glad to know that you're all mine. Sailing through the night, I find a sense of pleasure. The stars fall like the moon, so full of love. Nothing takes the place of romance and champagne. But all we need is you and me, baby. It's a joy to be near you. I want you here with me. It's a joy to be. I want to be with you. I want you here with me.
Excuse me, Dougie Fresh. Yes. Have you ever seen a show when fellas on the mic with 1 minute rhymes that don't come out right? They never write. That's not polite. Am I lying? No, you're right. Well, tonight on the Surrey mic, you're about to hear. We swear the best star rappers of the year. So cheer up, yell, scream, bravo. Also, if you didn't know, this is called the show. French, you're on. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Yo, what's wrong with that? Well, I don't know. They're late. Tell them the time. Oh, I forgot this day. Man, you did it again. Oh, no. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Here we go. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Well, don't get us wrong. Give me that, get right there on. I get the story, man. Y'all tucked in? Here we go. Once upon a time, not long ago,
when people wore pajamas and lived life slow. Where laws were stern and justice stood, and people were behaving like they ought to good. There lived a little boy who was misled by another little boy, and this is what he said. Me and you, tonight, we're gonna make some cash, robbing old folks and making the dash. They did the job, money came with ease, but one couldn't stop. It's like he had a disease. He robbed another and another, and a sister and a brother. Tried to rob a man who was a DC undercover. The cop grabbed his arm, he started acting erratic. He said, "Keep still, boy, no need for static." Punched him in his belly and he gave him a slap. But little did he know the little boy was strapped. The kid pulled out a gun, he said, "Why'd you hit me?" The barrel set straight for the cop's kidney. The cop got scared, the kid he thought to figure, I'll do years if I pull this trigger. So he cold dashed and ran around a block. Cop radios into another lady cop. He ran by a tree, there he saw the sister. Shot for the head, he shot back, but he missed her. Looked around good and from expectations, he decided he'd hit for the subway stations. But she was coming and he made a left. He was running top speed till he was out of breath. Knocked an old man down and swore he killed him. Then he made his move to an abandoned building. Ran up the stairs up to the top floor. Opened up a door there, guess who we saw? Dave the dope fiend shooting dope. Who don't know the meaning of water nor soap? He said, "I need bullets, hurry up, run." The dope fiend brought back a spanking shotgun. He went outside, but there was cops all over. Then he dipped into a car, a stolen Nova. Raced up the block doing 83. Crashed into a tree near University. Escaped alive, though the car was battered. Rat-a-tat-tatted and all the cops scattered. Ran out of bullets and he still had static. Grabbed the pregnant lady and pulled out the automatic. Pointed at her head, he said the gun was full of lead. He told the cops, "Back off, for honey here's dead." Deep in his heart, he knew he was wrong, so he let the lady go and he starts to run on. Siren sounded, he seemed astounded, and before long the little boy got surrounded. He dropped his gun, so went the glory, and this is the way I have to end this story. He was only 17 in a madman's dream. The cop shot the kid, I still hear him scream. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. Just another case about the wrong path. Straight and narrow are your soldiers. Cast. Good night.
The quiet part of my life. They don't understand how beautiful that is.